Hello and welcome to a road trip with a difference, which starts with me standing here in a field in Holland. Why am I here? Well, let me explain. The idea is that I'm going to drive this Jaguar I-Pace, which is charging here behind me, to the Nürburgring and hopefully put in a few laps as well. Now this is something new for me because I haven't really done the whole EV thing yet. I am, let's face it, a bit of a petrol head, and although I realise that electric cars are the future and all that, I've kind of had my head in the sand a bit and I've stuck to my V8s and all that kind of thing. So the idea of doing a big kind of trans-European road trip to a racetrack in an EV is something, well, it's a kind of petrol head's twist on the electric vehicle, isn't it? So this is the idea. The original plan for the video was I was going to start with this whole kind of venture starting from home and, you know, showing you how I plotted out the route, got on the ferry, charged the car and all that kind of thing. Didn't quite go to plan. So due to traffic getting to Hull and a bit of a rookie error trying to charge it there and some weird fault with the charger, we ended up boarding the ferry not with a full battery as I'd hoped, but with about half charge and about 100 miles range. So that's not ideal. So on the ferry I've been researching charging and all this kind of thing. I've logged on some apps and here I am at a fast-led charging station just outside Rotterdam, hopefully getting enough juice into the car to get us to the Nürburgring, which is about 200 miles away from where we are now. So we've been here now for just about 40 minutes and we've got 80% charge in the car. So hopefully I've found another charging station about 160 miles away in Germany. Hopefully that will get us there. Now it's quite interesting, isn't it? I started this video with kind of bold intentions of it being a kind of grand lifestyle trip to kind of tell you about how electric vehicles are. I'm getting a real taste of the reality because as somebody who's done this journey many times in petrol cars, I pretty much know which petrol stations I'd stop at. I know the way off by heart. Throwing in an electric vehicle into the equation changes things totally, and I've been, as I said, my head buried in maps, in apps and all this kind of thing. There's a lot to talk about which I'll have time to do on the road, but kind of first impressions of this kind of first stop is that here I am, in a glamorous truck stop in Holland. The whole EV dream is being portrayed to us as the future. The reality, as I say, is although we've got this glitzy, fancy, fast charging station and the car is charging up pretty quickly, I've got to, if I want to go and get a coffee, I've got to go and walk across a kind of cold, wet field to a fairly nondescript filling station over there. They've got coffees and all the rest of it over there, but it's freezing cold. I'm standing out here. It's not kind of, it's not living a dream, is it? But hopefully things will get better. And the good news is that I do actually have power going into the car. Now I'll tell you a bit more about the I-Pace once we get going, but the short of it is this is a 400 horsepower car that will do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. And it feels pretty quick already, and I'm very interested to see what it will be like around the Nürburgring. Fingers crossed we get there. Let's see how this charge is going, get a few more miles in, and I'll tell you what it's like on the road. Okay, so we've made it here to the Nürburgring. The experiment with long distance driving in an EV works. You can do it, and we are here, and I am going to hopefully drive the I-Pace around the Nordschleife on a tourist day, which is going to be rather interesting because I've never driven an EV around a race circuit before, let alone somewhere like the Nürburgring, so it's going to be quite the experience. I think it's going to be quite a learning curve, given that the last car I drove around here was a decidedly petrol-powered V10 Lamborghini, so it's going to be a very, very different experience from that. Before I go out myself, I'm going to get a ride in this. So this is kind of one of the reasons we're here, really. This is the I-Pace race taxi, which is driven by Dale Lomas, who I've known for quite a few years. So he's been out here driving the F-Type SVR and the Project 8 as a ring taxi. That's his day job. So you can pay and get a ride with him in any of those vehicles. And they've just added the I-Pace to the fleet, kind of off the back of all this excitement about EVs at the Nürburgring. And it's proving quite a smart move because there's a real buzz about EVs at the Nürburgring right now, and a lot of very curious people wanting to know what it's like to get a ride round here in an I-Pace. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ride alongside Dale first of all and get his insight on what it's been like learning to drive an EV around the ring, what tips he might have for getting the most out of the I-Pace on the Nordschleife. So I'm going to ride along with him, and then we're going to drive our I-Pace round, so I'm going to drive that round myself too. So very excited, very interested to see what it's all about. Best buckle up and join Dale for the ride.
Welcome to the Jaguar I-Pace official Nürburgring taxi.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with this, Dan, but this is an I-Pace EV 400, so it's 400 horsepower, it's 700 Newton meters,
Right.
and it's the world's first fully electric Nürburgring taxi.
So,
We've not been selected for random sound testing today, you'll be glad to know.
even with your funky synthesised engine note.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to be in danger of 137 decibels.
It's not loud enough in the car park.
Right.
Genuinely,
Yeah.
it needs a louder synthesizer in the car park, because here you've got GT3s and Ferraris and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
and people just step out in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So when you're ready, I'm ready.
Right.
Most important part is that you're having fun, so if
Yep.
you feel sick or you want me to slow down, you just tell me straight away.
Okay. There we go. So that's
700 Newton meters
on a very greasy surface.
on a very greasy surface, but the traction control is really funky in an electric car, because
Yeah.
you can do the same thing that you do with normal automotive technology with torque vectoring by braking.
Yeah.
But also you can modulate the power to the motors in thousandths of a second.
Yeah.
So traction control in the EV cars is really, really a big advantage.
Yeah.
It's a very cool thing. And this is four-wheel drive with the motor at the back there is on a limited slip diff, so you can feel
Okay.
it pushing around.
Yeah.
And the front is an open diff, so we can do little mini cute power oversteers look.
Yeah. So you've been doing this ring taxiing in various kind of
Yep.
noisy supercharged V8 Jaguars.
Yes.
How did this come about? What was the idea for it?
Well, going back, 2017 is when I took over the Jaguar F-Type SVR,
Yeah.
and we've been enjoying obviously thousands of 5-litre supercharged V8 laps a
Yeah.
year ever since that point. And this summer, it all kicked off, didn't it, with electric vehicles around the Nürburgring. And I watched bemused from the sidelines and thought to myself, we did this.
Yeah.
We already did this.
Yeah.
Our I-Pace can do 3-4 laps, no problemo, and I could do that with a recharge in between and do that 3 or 4 times a day. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at 12 to 16 laps a day. And I looked at the booking sheets for the Jaguar taxi, and the amount of laps that I do per day anyway per car is 15 laps, because
Yeah.
then we do a service. So I thought, what's stopping us?
Yeah.
And it was a sentiment echoed throughout the company from top to bottom, left to right. We had full support, so we dropped an I-Pace off here at the Nürburgring and took the first customers out in it. And to do that, we had to take off our legendary XJR 575 long wheelbase limousine, which is quite a thing.
Yeah.
To take off a 575 horsepower 5-litre V8 limo and replace it with a 400 horsepower electric SUV, that was a big decision to make.
Yeah.
The Schwedenkreuz will still do about 100 miles an hour even in the wet.
Yeah. So what? And this car's totally standard, as we say.
This is absolutely
does you drive out?
100% standard.
Yeah.
Same brake pads, same tyres,
Yeah.
no extra cooling, no nothing.
And it does 4 laps for charge, you say?
Yes.
And that's
My record is 6
right
at full speed, but that was in the wet and in the warm. So you've got lots of environmental factors will affect your range, the same as they would in a petrol car.
Yeah. But you were only getting 4 laps to a tank out of the F-Type, weren't you? So,
yeah.
So
three in the F-Type.
Right.
And 3 in the Project 8.
Yeah. So actually,
This is actually a slight improvement.
yeah.
The gas station can sometimes be a 20-25 minute experience at the Nürburgring. I'm
Yeah.
sure that anybody at home who's been here will relate to that, especially at Easter. It can be half an hour to an hour to get fueled and get away. So I go and charge on a DC 100 charger,
Yeah.
and I'm good to go again in typically less than 30 minutes.
And I'll get you another 4 laps.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So I hover around in the bottom 75% of the battery all day.
Yeah.
I don't bother charging anything above 85% typically.
Yeah. So first lap out in an I-Pace, what was your takeaway?
Well, the first time I drove an I-Pace was on the road.
Yeah.
And at the time I wasn't expecting to like it.
Yeah.
And after about 10,000 kilometers, I really, really wanted one. It was triggering the same thing inside me that makes me buy electric radio controlled cars,
Okay,
or
yeah.
makes me, look at e-mountain bikes, it's the torque, it's the power, it's the simplicity of it and the gadgetry of it. So I already knew that the car was really good on the road, and when I first drove it on the track, I was like so happy I'd made the right decision to ask for the I-Pace to replace the XJR.
Yeah.
Because it can handle the Nordschleife really, really well, and it does it in a way that is so safe and reassuring and silent that customers are just, they don't know what to think.
Right.
Because you're in a car, you're doing 120 miles an hour sometimes, and the thing is utterly silent, and you're whipping past 300 horsepower petrol cars on the acceleration zones like they've missed a gear.
Yeah.
So it's a very strange sensation for most people to have their first lap in the electric car, and I'm delivering what I felt when I first drove an electric car around the Nordschleife, that sense of awe and oh my god, this is so alien.
Yeah.
I get to deliver that 16 times a day to people. It's really fun. It's really fun.
And how's it different to drive? So we were saying yesterday about a little bit about noise and things like that, how you drive it differently. So
you're doing a lot more seat of the pants feeling of judging your speed, because the factors that your brain takes in, like what gear you're in, what RPM you are at, those factors have all gone. So your subconscious can't immediately deliver you're doing 183 kilometers per hour because you're doing 7,000 RPM in fourth. Yeah. That mental arithmetic, which for me is kind of like that's the normal on a racetrack, is gone. Yeah. So I actually have the hood on, very, very low, dimly lit. I have the hood on, and it shows me the kilometers per hour in the middle of the screen. And I think that was actually, when I first started driving the e-car, that was a really important factor, because I don't particularly read it consciously. Yeah. But like right now, it's doing 163 kilometers per hour, and I know that off the top of my head, Mudkurver here in the wet is about 155 kilometers per hour, absolute maximum. So it was a nice reassurance.
You wouldn't be using that in a petrol car. You'd be using you'd be using the revs. You'd be using
I would be turning that off. I'm normally not a hood guy. I turn hood off in all the cars that I drive normally. But in this, it was part of the switching over process from petrol to electric for me.
Yeah. And you were saying as well, you have to use more kind of visual references on the tracks, kind of fixed signs and trees, whatever.
That goes for any car.
Yeah, but more so because you don't have that noise and fluctuation of gears and all that kind of stuff. So
one of the advantages, I would say, actually, the biggest thing that I noticed about driving the e-car was that I can hear the tyres.
Right.
And I can hear the tyres, and I can hear the tyres on braking as well. Right. There's no booming down changes and loads of engine braking as 8 pistons compress air on the engine braking zone. Right. Now I can brake to the point where the tyres say no. Right. And I can hold it there, because you just hear everything. Like here, it's full wet. We take it off the racing line. Yeah. Squeal, squeal. Right. And you don't hear that in the petrol cars.
Yeah. Yeah. And regen is quite that plays quite
amazing.
A big part in the lap, doesn't it? So what do you know how much brake you're using and how much regen you're using?
Yeah.
Do you brake much?
I brake a lot, and I brake early. Right. So when I'm driving taxi, I'm not driving like records. Yeah. I'm driving specifically to deliver a safe and fun lap and a good experience to everybody, but safety comes first. So if I come off the gas pedal, the electric pedal, a little bit early, let the regen pick up the slack for an extra 50 meters per braking zone. Yeah. That can equate to the difference between maybe regenning 3 kilowatt hours per lap and 7 kilowatt hours. Right. And regenning 7 kilowatt hours means I'm charging a whole extra lap into the battery over the course of driving 3 laps.
That's amazing.
So that pumps me up to 4 laps.
Right.
And you select it on the menu. Do you want high regen or do you want low regen?
And what do you run?
I run high regen.
And how many options are there?
There's low and high. That's it.
Right, okay.
And when you're running in high regen, that means that when the steering wheel is straight and you're decelerating, it's going to use about 75% of the electric braking straight away at speed. Yeah. And you can control the rest of the electric regen, the electric braking, with your big toe. The first squishy bit of the brake pedal, the soft bit, is electric regen control. So I can brake it, looking at the dial here in the middle, I brake it to 100% regen in every braking zone. And I hold it there. And that means braking a little bit earlier and a little bit lighter. Yeah. but like I said, 7 kilowatt hours, and you know, we're still braking at something like 0.7, 0.8 G, which is a lot more than most people do on the road.
Yeah.
And if I use the brake pads, I could take that 0.8 and make it, 0.7, take it up to 1.0, which I do about twice per lap anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't feel I'm taking anything away from anybody's experience,
No.
and in fact, this is all just part of the game of enjoying your EV.
Yeah, which is a different game from a petrol car, but
It
a
is.
game all the same, and
It
challenges,
is.
and yeah. And it's still obviously quite playful. You can still dance
That's
around
not
it.
braking, that's regen.
Right.
So we just shot up to 70 miles an hour, down to 45 to turn in, and we just did it with charging the battery.
Yeah. And what are the punters like? So are they tech-savvy EV people who want the ultimate EV experience, or are they kind of EV curious petrol heads who turn up in a V8?
A very even mix.
Right.
So if you consider the fact that there's not that many people rolling around in EVs at the moment, but there are a lot of what I term like EV petrol heads, quote unquote. Yeah. There's lots of EV fans who are coming to enjoy the I-Pace at the moment, and they make up maybe 40% of our bookings.
Are they coming here specifically for that?
And they're coming, so they're getting in their Teslas, they're getting in their I-Paces, and they're driving from one side of Europe to the other, simply to drive one lap of the Nürburgring in our I-Pace. So it's definitely becoming a bit of a cult thing to do, if you're an EV guy, and if you're on the EV forums and come over and do an EV lap of the Nürburgring, and that's awesome, you know. I foresee a future where there's a row of fast chargers at the Nordschleife, and I know that there are literally people going apoplectic at that thought. And I just want to say, you know, 20 years petrol head, but it's coming. There'll be 20 fast chargers here within 5 years.
And then what do the kind of petrol head guys, you know, the kind of red-blooded stake on a stone V8 men, you know? Like... That's
the most interesting part, isn't it? Because I was one of those people until I started driving these. Yeah. And you only really need to let them drive it. You know, when we do the customer driving days and driving experiences, the moment they drive one, they say, okay, I'm going to have to readjust, because that is actually pretty cool. And it's the same with the taxi. They jump in the car and they're like, you're not going to impress me. Yeah. And by Hatzenbach, 1.5 kilometers into our lap, they're like, okay, this is really cool. Okay. Yeah. There is always the number one complaint is always lack of gears and lack of engine noise. Yeah. But that's just what it is, isn't it? Yeah. You don't, and nothing says that because you like an EV, it means that you don't like a V8. Yeah. Yeah. I think everything has its place here. There's no problem with, you know, look at that yellow beast in front of us. Gorgeous. But this is just a different technology and a different way of doing things, and people like it. I like it.
That's awesome. That is a lap with a difference. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It is 100% a totally fresh thing to do at the Nürburgring, isn't it? How many years at the Nürburgring, Dan? 20?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah? And this trip is your first ever...
First ever long-distance EV trip, and first time around a racetrack, first time
round a racetrack in a high-performance EV. It's like, it's so alien, but so cool.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So there it is. I have successfully driven an electric vehicle to the Nürburgring and driven it around in tourist sessions along with petrol heads in 911 GT3s, BMW M3s and all the other stuff that you usually find going around the circuit. I had my lap with Dale in taxi as well. That was really, really interesting and really helped get me kind of get some useful tips for how to get the most out of an EV on the ring. It was really, really interesting, and for a committed petrol head like myself, admitted a bit of an EV skeptic, it's been a real eye-opener. You know, it's not the same. I mean, there goes a nice noisy V8. It'll never be the same as that, will it? But it throws new challenges into driving, which are enjoyable in their own ways. So it's not worse. It's different, and it's been a very, very interesting experience. And I'm really glad that we did it. Now all I've got to do is get charged up and hopefully make my ferry home.